1950 as a member of the Tri-Cities Blackhawks. He then transferred over to the Boston Celtics and played for them from 1950 to 1963. He was nicknamed the Houdini of the hardwood because he made the game interesting.
In the 1950s, basketball was ruled by white players, but as the years went by, it became more integrated with help from people like Earl Lloyd, Chuck Cooper, and Nat Clifton.
Hello, and welcome to Channel 50 News at 7. My name is Peter Jennings.
And I'm Brian Williams.
And tonight, we're here to talk to you about baseball. Now, the Yankees have really dominated the World Series this decade.
They've won 11 titles in just 10 years.
Shut up, Brian. No, they've won 9 titles this decade. Now tell them about Willie Mays.
Well, Willie Mays is the greatest player of the decade by far. He plays for the Giants, and he's been great.
He has over 100 stolen bases in one season and had a batting average of .450 per game.
He also has very good center field instincts and seems to be the greatest center fielder of all time.
In 1951, he helped pull the Giants up from a 13-game deficit to tie the Dodgers. Thank you. Back to your regularly scheduled program.
From Channel 50 News, this is Brian Williams, and whoever this is.
Jerry West brought one of the greatest rivalries ever seen in basketball. While Jerry West was a great shooter and ball handler, Bill Russell astounded fans with his athleticism and
Hello, and welcome to Channel 60 News at 8. My name is Peter Jennings.
And I'm Brian Williams.
Now, before we begin, I would just like to say that Brian has had some work done recently. He was feeling a little insecure, so he got a few nips and tucks, but he's still the same man. Now, tonight we'd like to talk about Muhammad Ali. Now, Muhammad Ali has fought 61 fights total in his career. Now, how many of those has he won?
56 and 72 by knockout.
Brian, I've already told you once, you can't exaggerate these things. He won 37 by knockout. Now, in 1960, he was asked to go to the Olympics in Rome to compete for the U.S. And what medal did he win?
The platinum medal.
It was actually the gold medal. And we're going to sign off now before Brian says something else stupid. This has been Peter Jennings. And
Brian Williams.
from Channel 60 News. Good night.
Sorry if I look a little thin.
One of the new stars that emerged in the 1960s was John Havlicek. He won titles, and the more famous one, he stole the ball to win the NBA championship.
Larry Bird is known as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He is also one of the most interesting, is that he came from a small town in Indiana called French Lick. He was drafted into the NBA in 1978 by the Boston Celtics. He won the NBA championship 3 times and was the NBA Finals MVP twice in his life. He was well known for his shooting and passing ability. He was also well known for his rivalry with Lakers player Magic Johnson.
Irving Magic Johnson was from inner city Michigan, and at the time of his NCAA championship meeting with Larry Bird, he was known for being very outspoken and seemed to believe that Larry Bird was not as good as they thought he was. They had a big rivalry in the NBA, and both have
to ESPN2, The Dose. I'm Shaquille O'Neal,
And I'm Skip Bayless.
and tonight we'd like to take some time to reflect on the past decade and all the great sporting events that have occurred. Now, in 1979, Sugar Ray Leonard won his first world boxing title. Now, what are your thoughts about that, Skip?
Well, I really think Skip Bayless is the best newscaster ever, in that he thinks that Sugar Ray Leonard is a great boxer. So, Sugar Ray Leonard must be a great boxer.
I really think that the nickname fits because his punches are just so sweet, like sugar. So, what are your thoughts about Pele, this new soccer player?
Well, he's very, very good. I definitely see him ascending into superstardom in the next few decades. Possibly some World Cup titles. Brazil, they're really going to do well with this Pele.
Yeah. When was his first professional game?
1977. He's got the foot skills of a magician and the aggressiveness of an angry chimpanzee. So I really think he's going to do well.
I think you're looking for the foot skills of, say, a jaguar or something like that. Magicians don't use their feet.
He's a magician with the ball. He just takes his feet, and you're like,
Where'd he go?
and he's just gone. He's gone.
So
And then he goes and scores a goal, and you're just...
They're just gone. So moving on. I heard there's a new sport that there was a World Cup for in 1975. I think the name is like some sort of insect or...
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it a sport. It's called cricket, and you just kind of hit this ball with this paddle, and then you throw a ball and these sticks. And, that doesn't sound like a good sport to me, but that's because I'm an American, and I live in the greatest country in the world, and we have the greatest sports in the world, like basketball, and baseball, and football.
I have a question about that sport. I'm 6'9". Is that going to be difficult for me to play?
Shaq, you're 7'1".
Oh, I'm sorry. It was a few years ago when I last measured my height. So, let's talk about Rumble in the Jungle, which occurred in 1974. Now, this was an elite boxing match that occurred between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. Now, the main purpose of this match was to get these two outstanding boxers together and advertise off this in Africa. Now, Muhammad Ali won this in the 8th round by knockout. Now, signing off, I'm Shaquille O'Neal.
And I'm Skip Bayless.
Hello, I'm Peter Jennings.
And I'm Brian Williams.
And this is Channel 80 News.
At 8:30.
At 9.
At 8:30.
Now, as we approach the 90s,
8:30.
I would like to take a thoughtful look back into the past decade and talk about some of the great sporting events that have occurred.
It was a good decade, wasn't it?
It really was. First of all, I would like to talk about one of the greatest events of all time, and that is the Miracle on Ice. Now, this is when the U.S. hockey team beat Russia in a match in 1980 to win the World Championship. Next, we're going to talk about the great basketball player, Magic Johnson.
In Game 4 of the 1984 NBA Finals, with a few seconds left, Magic Johnson drives to the middle and hits a sky hook and swishes it.
It was a really great moment.
Larry Bird misses the game-winning shot. The Lakers go on to win the championship. One of the greatest moments in sports.
Well, not for me, because I'm a Celtics fan. But anyways, let's take a comedic look now at 1985 when Bobby Knight threw a chair in an Indiana college basketball game. Now, he was angry because one of his players had gotten a technical foul, and while they were shooting the free throws, he just threw his chair across the room.
I've always thought that's a good idea. Joe Montana, he's just one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He's got 6 Super Bowl appearances. He really makes good passes and good plays. He's got a real head for the game.
when he passed,
His in-game instincts are just so good.
I don't know. I mean, that game-winning pass to John Taylor in the last Super Bowl with 34 seconds left in the game. I mean, you have to just be calm and collected, and he's got all of that. So in the 1986 World Series, the Red Sox versus the Mets, and in Game 6, their first baseman, as great a player as he is, he made a terrible mistake. They grounded off a ball with the Red Sox up, and he just let it roll right between his legs. Missed his glove.
You know, I've always said the Red Sox, they just don't have that edge that they need
I know.
to. You know, no team from Boston has ever been as good as teams from anywhere else. Just Boston teams, they're just not as good.
Except for the Celtics. But, anyways.
I mean, if they didn't have Larry Bird, who was from the Midwest, then they wouldn't be as good as everyone else.
Sadly true. You know, I heard a story that afterwards he was just getting so much hatred from his teammates and, you know, his fans that he tried to jump in front of a bus and the bus just went between his legs.
Ha, ha, ha. Funny.
Now, tell me about Pete Rose.
Well, Pete Rose, he got the all-time hit record, and he worked so hard for it, and honestly, some people would say he worked too hard, because he started putting himself in games where they really didn't need Pete Rose to be in games, because he was a player manager his last few years, so he would just put himself in to get a hit, and he wouldn't get a hit.
And I mean, when you're 35 years old and you're still in the game of baseball, going as hard as you have for the past few years, I mean, that's just difficult on your body.
Yeah, he was actually in his 40s at the end of his career, too.
Oh, yeah, but I'm talking about when he set the hit record.
Yeah. You know, after that, he was actually banned from the game of baseball because he gambled on his own games.
I mean, what a sad way to go. I mean, after setting the hit record for the National League 7 times, just to ruin your reputation like that.
Yep.
I mean,
It's sad days in sports.
I mean, after all those sad days, we still had some good ones. So signing off for the last time, I'm Peter Jennings.
And I'm Brian Williams.
Good night. Let's do this.
No! I'm practicing my majestic camera face.
Camera face.
I think the tilt of the chin needs to be tilted more. Which side of my face is better, that side or that side? Or that side?
They're both bad.